In Boy Breaking Glass, Gwendolyn Brooks uses a number of poetic techniques or poetic devices in order to communicate meaning through her poem. And those devices are both imagistic or based in imagery and also based in sound. I want to start by just taking a look at the title of the poem itself. Boy Breaking Glass pulls us in, grabbing us and hitting us over the head with alliteration. The double repetition of the hard B's in boy and breaking sort of elicits almost a feeling of violence or a feeling of aggressiveness. And this sound, this sort of aggressive or hard sound that we get in the title, prepares the reader for the images and the meaning that is to follow. Now, moving forward and thinking about the first stanza, we'll go ahead and just give it a read as a whole. Whose broken window is a cry of art, success that winks aware as elegance, as a treasonable faith, is raw, is sonic, is old-eyed premier, our beautiful flaw and terrible ornament, our barbarous and metal little man. Well, to take a step back and break that down, let's think first about the very first line of the poem. And in the very first line of the poem, we get an image of a broken window. That broken window is owned by the boy, right? Whose broken window? The broken window is owned or is created by the boy in the title. The broken window is then compared using a metaphor to a cry of art. But I want to pause here and make a distinction between art and a cry of art, the difference there, right? A cry of art is something that has a stronger sense of necessity to it. It comes with a feeling of anguish, right? And so we're already beginning to get a picture of what it is the boy is creating. I want to jump down to line 4, where we get a continued description of this work of art. The work of art is described as raw, sonic, and as an old eye premiere. When we break down some of those words, we think about the word raw. Raw can mean naked or sort of revealing oneself, but it could also mean sore, right? So this breaking of glass is revealing of oneself, but it also reveals a soreness or a pain. Sonic connects us to the feeling of or the idea of loudness. The sound or the action is one that is audible and so recognizable. And then the phrase an old-eyed premiere, premiere being the first performance or the first act or the first demonstration of a work of art. And so we begin to get a sense that this act of breaking, this violent act of what the poet is describing artwork, is a first time occurrence. Looking at the next two lines in the poem, we have something that's called an anaphora. Anaphora is a term that we use when a line in a poem is begun in the exact same way. So the repetition of our and our in those two successive lines creates an anaphora. And that's done to emphasize the idea there. By repeating the word our, what the poet is trying to do is to emphasize that the boy and the artwork or the destructive action of breaking belongs to the poet or belongs to the community that the poet, or rather, I should say, speaker, is heralding from or is representing from. I also want to point out the oxymorons that we see in these two lines. Oxymorons are things that ideas that contrast with one another. You can also use the term juxtaposition, say that we're juxtaposing opposite ideas or opposite images. And so we get the idea that the broken window is beautiful and yet it's a flaw. It's terrible and yet it's decorative or ornamental. And that final line, we return to alliteration and we get the repetitive sound of metal, little, man. So the M's in metal and man are alliteration. And then we get some internal sound repetition, the T in metal and the T in little. So again, really emphasizing those hard sounds in order to evoke a sense of violence.